Bruchim Aboim B'Shem Hashem B'Shem Irgun Shir Torah. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Harav Yakov Zev Smith Shlita on Shomeia Ka'ona, when it doesn't work. To have the great schus sponsoring a shir called Irgun Shir Torah 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Harav Smith.
Over the years we've discussed various parts of Shomeia Ka'ona. Today we'd like to focus on a neglected part of it, and that is when Shomeia Ka'ona doesn't work. Okay, where we started, we had unfortunately 3 different shilas where people Pasha could not talk. One was a problem with a palate, one was a growth in the throat, and one was a machler, a. And for weeks they anticipated not be able to talk. So when can you use Shomeia Ka'ona? Does it work for Shemay Nesra, for Krishma? And basically from the beginning of our Chaim till the end, when it works and when it doesn't work. So the truth is that the sugya of Shomeia Ka'ona is the well-known Gemara in Sukkot of Lamed Ches, where the Gemara says, how do you know Shomeia Ka'ona? The Gemara quotes the pasuk Malachim Beis, that the pasuk records that Yoshua Melech lay the Torah. V'chiyashio Karan, haloi Shafan Karan. It's not true. Yoshua didn't lay. Shafan lay. Mikan l'Shomeia Ka'ona, which is a very startling insight into Shomeia Ka'ona. Tanakh, every word is emes and meduyik, and the pasuk took the liberty of saying that Yoshio lane, I didn't lane. Shomeia Ka'ona. Listening is like saying, and the pasuk is allowed to say that Yoshio laned. And as we know, Shulchan Aruch and Reish Yud Gimel, Reish Yud Tes, Reish Ayin Gimel, Reish Tzadik Ches, and other places quote Shomeia Ka'ona as normative halacha. But the big question is, fine, it works, but how does it work? For example, let's talk a simple weekly mashal. There's a mitzvah to say kiddush ala kois. How does it work? I'm listening to someone say kiddush. I'm not saying kiddush, and I zicha don't have a kois. So a lot has been written, but we're just going to focus on the basics, then we'll apply it lamaisa. The simple understanding of Shomeia Ka'ona is that I'm yotzei with my listening. Me, am I shmiya? In other words, in Shemayim there are 2 options to be yotzei kiddush. Either saying it or listening. B'yesa bir or b'yesa gishmak. Listen to the following question. Well, I hope it doesn't happen, but ayana diyayim. It comes Shavuos morning, and it's pretty tiring, a long night learning, and then there's davening. B'kitza, we'll call him Aaron HaKoyen, is coming duchening, and he's just too tired to duchen. So he tells his friend Yankel HaKoyen, Yankel, do me a favor. You're duchening, I'll stand next to you. You duchen really loud, with Kol Ram, I'm too tired for that. And I'll listen, I'll be yotzei with Shomeia Ka'ona. Does Shomeia Ka'ona work for duchening? Says the Beis Halevi, in the end of Reish, in the Kuntres and Chanukah, it doesn't work. Shomeia Ka'ona works for all mitzvahs, but for duchening, that the integral part of the mitzvah is Kol Ram, that this Aaron HaKoyen didn't say Kol Ram. So just like if he duchens without Kol Ram, he's not yotzei. If he didn't duchen, he's certainly not yotzei. Zok the Steipler in Kilas Yakov and Bרכות Yud Gimel. Obviously, the Beis Halevi understood Shomeia Ka'ona works. I'm yotzei with my shmiya. But I didn't do Kol Ram. In other words, you can't attribute physical aspects of a dibur that you didn't make. Zokti Kilas Yaakov, that the Beis Halevi held Shmiya is a type of dibur, but it's not Kol Ram. There's a second going that took the same approach, and that's the Tzaftas Paneach, the Rogachev and Rambam, Chelik Aleph Amud Nun Zayin. He wonders about the minhag some have, that during the Megillas Esther, the shot stops when it comes to Aseres Bnei Haman, and the tzibur says it b'neshima achas. Why is that necessary? Why isn't it enough that the shot's lanes it b'neshima achas? So the Rogachev says the same yotzei like the Beis Halevi. He doesn't quote him, of course, but he has the same idea. Shomeia Ka'ona works because I'm yotzei with my listening. If I hear the shot saying it b'Kol Ram, that's b'neshima achas, it's wonderful. But I didn't say it b'neshima achas. So I'm not yotzei that minhag. Now someone asks me, so why can't you listen b'neshima achas. That's a good joke. Because the minig is to say it b'neshima achas, not to listen. So that's why says the Rogachev, the minig is that the tzibur first says it, and I hope the Olam knows this. If you have that minig, you're supposed to say it b'neshima achas, not just say it. So we have two Geonim that seem to take the approach. Shomeia Ka'ona works, I'm yotzei with my listening. Frekti Heilige Chazenish in Siman Chavtes, there's a problem with that, an obvious problem. Very nice. You listen, you're yotzei, but you don't have a kais. How yotzei kiddush or avdallah, you listen there, thank you for listening, but where's the kais? Says the Chazenish, it has to be more to Shomeia Ka'ona. And to use his lashon, it's an esachta Shomeia umashmiya. In other words, if we follow the rules and we put Shomeia Ka'ona into effect, whatever you did, you're the Kadesh, whatever you did, I get. I give him much, it's like Yisach Zvulun. This Zvulun is working, not learning, but he gets the schar, not only for the learning, but the Yediyah Satire. How does it work? If we are connected, I get your mitzvah. Says the Chazenish, that's why it will help Shomeia Ka'ona by duchening, because if Aaron HaKohen is listening, he gets the kol ram, and it will work, this he doesn't say that, but obviously it will work neshima achas, but most importantly, Zok the Chazenish, that's why you could be yotzei kiddush ala kais, because if he make kiddush ala kais, you get the full package kiddush ala kais. He does quote the Beis HaLevi and express his surprise why he said that. So again, there's a lot more to say about Shomeia Ka'ona, but for us, we have a big agenda. Let me put it this way. Shomeia Ka'ona on a simple level means I'm yotzei with my listening, but it has to be more enhanced than that. And as we saw from the Chazenish, and that's what most places can accept, that if you listen and you make it Shomeia Ka'ona, whatever the Mashmiya did, you get the package with the physical part of Shomeia of Neshima Achas, Koram, and Havdal Alakos. Or Kiddush Alakos. So now let's apply this Lamaisa. First of all, it should be simple, that if you listened, even if you didn't say Amen, you're yotzei. It's a Ferish Machaber Reisha Gimel Beis. Why? Teretz says, why not? You're not yotzei by saying Amen. Why is Shomeia Ka'ona work? Because you listen. So once you listen to the entire Kiddush, even though Avada you should say Amen, it's a big mitzvah. But if he didn't say Amen, he's yotzei without that niyas Amen. Question. Someone asked me, questions to get to every Yiddish home. His boys are getting older, and he wants to know, should he urge them to make their own Kiddush Friday night, or be yotzei with him? So I asked him, what's your father's minig? Don't ask me, your minig. No, my father has no minig. What do you want? Okay. So let's talk tachlis. If someone has no minig, should each boy make their own Kiddush, or the father make their own Kiddush? So the truth is, there's a maila in one making for all, just melech. It's a whole sugya, a big maila. But the chayra, and I stress the chayra, there's a problem with the minig of one making for all. Because let's say I'm lazy, and Leil Erev Pesach, I pay a shliach to be b'aydik chametz to me. So I was yotzei the mitzvah b'dikas chametz, I did shliach. But it's not the lechatchila, because the Gemara says in Kedusha, Mem Aleph, mitzvah b'yotzei b'shluchai. L'chayra, if the boys listen to my kiddush, they are yotzei, but there's a chasar mitzvah b'yotzei b'shluchai. So we have a conflict of interest. Rav Majid Melach, but mitzvah boy. However, the Rashba seems to feel it's not a problem. In the Rashba, Aleph Kuf Chav Vav, the Rashba says when you listen Shomeia Ka'ona, afilu lechatchila. Had there been a problem of mitzvah boy, you can't call lechatchila. But frek the oilas Shabbos in Reish Ayin Gimel Sif Koton Hey, I think if you use the kiddush of the father, you listeners are lacking in mitzvah yotzei b'shluchai. But the Rashba sagt nicht so. How do you understand this? So for us it's masik mitvash. Because when you hire someone make b'dikas chametz and you did nothing, you are lacking in mitzvah boy. But when you are listening, you're yotzei with your listening, whether it's the simple shmiya or the fancy package deal. But I am an active participant and I'm listening. And I always say listening is harder than talking. So he's yotzei mitzvah boy and roivam. And that's the taina of the Tosfos Shabbos, Reish Ayin Gimel, the end of Sivkot Yud. The Big Day Yesha quotes it verbatim. And I think we could add, if the pasuk in the Malachim is allowed to say Asher Karan HaMelech, if the pasuk is allowed to say that Yoshiyahu laned, that means you're allowed to say mitzvah boy. That's mitzvah boy, because as if you laned. This is why we could say that there's no doubt about it, that mitzvah, that listening to someone else's kiddush, Havdalah, is a mile of Raivam and mitzvah boy yotzei mibeshluchai. However, before you're quick to apply this, we have another problem, and that is there's another factor here. The Rosh in the Tshuvas in Klal Dalet Siman Yotes, he says really technically I could listen and be yotzei Shomeia ka'ona by listening to Birchas Krishma, both Shachris and Ma'ariv. Why don't we do it? So the Rosh made an admission, and he said the truth is because we don't concentrate long enough. To be yotzei, you have to, the aleph of Shomeia ka'ona is Shomeia. To listen. If you drift off and miss a key word, you're not yotzei. Says the Rosh, I'm afraid if the whole Birchas Krishma takes a long time, I'm going to miss a few words. So if you miss a word, you're not yotzei. And this attitude of trying to avoid being yotzei with Shomeia ka'ona because you might not do it right is quoted by his son, the Torah in Siman Nun Tes and Siman Tovkuf Sadik Aleph. In other words, Roiv Am is a Maila. True. Shomeia ka'ona is lechatchila. I must mention the tzibur and Reishut Gimel Sivkot and Beis said if it ever pashut. Shomeia ka'ona is lechatchila. But you have to make sure that you're equal to the challenge and listen to every word. Says the Chayadam in Klal Hey Siman Yud Zayin. He says Avada Roiv Am is a Maila. But you have to make sure you listen mitchila v'atzoif. If not, then Roiv Am without being yotzei is not a good idea. The Rav in Reishut Gimel, Mishnah in two places, Ches Yud Gimel, Reishut Gimel, Sivkot and Beis, and the Aruch HaShulchan, both say this probably is the minig of many, especially by Chassidim, that each bacher, whatever age you start is up to you, but each bacher makes their own kiddush. Why? I Roiv Am, true, but let's be realistic, the boy's going to drift off. So basically, to answer this very important question, what's better? To each make their own kiddush or listen to the Rosh Habayis. So in halacha, Rosh Habayis is a mile of Roiv Am. And by listening, if you listen properly, you're not losing mitzvah boy. You have to make sure you'll do it. So some decide to try to do it right and listen, and some to try to not take chances and each make their own kiddush, and they have at least the yotzei, the kiddush properly. Now, lamaisa, a little of a tzarchin I have, women, girls, never make their own kiddush. Typically, they have a little less of attention span than the men. They should need it most. So the truth is, the Magen Avraham and Kuf Tzad the Gimel Sivkot and Beis says what's proper is that the women should say along the kiddush with the men. Now that's a kiddush we'll soon use for a different aspect, but it's not done. So I would say to all of us, I should say, let's at least make sure that it's possible for women to do it. Let's wait till they come and they're meyushiv, and ask them, let's try to listen. It's a good idea. You could suggest it. You can't demand it. They should follow along in the Siddur. But remember, women have the same chi of kiddush like men, women and girls, that is. So if you're concerned about being yotzei Shomeia ka'ona, women should also be concerned, at least make it easier for them to do it right. This leads to the next question. Someone heard a kiddush, for example, and missed a few words. He missed the word Baruch or Hashem. So we once spoke not long ago that many words of a bracha or kiddush are ma'akev b'di'evet. The word Baruch, one word is ma'akev. Atah is not. Hashem, Elokeinu, at least one Shem you have to be ma'akev. Melech Ha'olam is ma'akev, and of course the Nusach HaBracha is ma'akev. So what do you do if you miss the word Baruch, but you heard the rest of kiddush? So Lamaisa, even though we discussed a different time, Chatzi Shmiya, Chatzi Amir, you can't add up. You can't say, you'll make the first half of the bracha, I'll make the second half. We don't add two halves together. But we do know by the Megillah, if you miss a word or two, you could supplement with your own word. So the way the Steipel explains, you can't have two halves of the bracha and add it up. But if you're listening to someone saying the Megillah, and he's saying it, and I missed the word, you could supplement it. So presumably the same applies if I'm yotzei with your bracha. So it's not chatzi shmiya, chatzi amir. I'm yotzei with your kiddush. I missed the word baruch. Okay? So I should quickly say it and catch up. Now, if you say baruch and he said atah, so you missed atah. Okay, it's not so bad. But the best thing is say two words, make sure you're up to the person, and then reconnect Hashem Elokeinu and be yotzei with his kiddush or whatever it is.
You just said that you can't put together.
Oh, so that's only if you're half and half. But here I'm yotzei with his entirely. I'm just adding the word I missed like we do my Megillah. Now, Lamaisa, it's important that the Shulchan Aruch says in the end of Reishut Gimel, if you miss even one word, you're not yotzei. And answering Ramein does not help. Because you're not yotzei with Ramein. You're yotzei with the listening. Question, I would love to hear from the Olam because it's a very common question. I'm in a camp, in the yeshiva, and even in a big family, it could be very negeya. Many people have a minig that they want to make their own brachas by Havdalah on Psamim and Ner. So here's a common scenario, one of the many. Someone is trying to get a hold of the Ner until the last second. Lamai, this is the story. He said the words, Baruch finished the bracha Ma'orei Ha'esh, when the Mavdil started and said the words Baruch Atah. So what's his location? If he frees, he said Ma'orei Ha'esh simultaneously with the Mavdil saying Baruch Atah. So effectively, l'chayr, he missed the word Baruch Atah, so he wasn't yotzei. But he could swear to you that he heard Baruch Atah as he said Ma'orei Ha'esh. Now, you have to be a b'chai moizer to write with both hands at the same time. But I asked the doctor, and he told me it's possible to talk and listen. The truth is, many people, when the wives talk, they also talk, and hopefully they're listening. So I guess it works. But truth be told, it's not. If you concentrate, you could say something and listen. Let's assume that's true. Let's assume he could do that. Does that mean he was yotzei the Havdalah because he said Ma'orei Ha'esh and heard Baruch Atah? Says the Chafetz Chaim, Yakov Samach Zayim Memhei, and more dramatically in Sharetzian, you have a different problem. Because what's your location? You're yotzei with listening and you're saying. So one's a hefsek to the other. You can't be in two places. What's your bracha? Baruch Atah Hashem, Ma'orei Ha'esh, and Baruch Atah of a Mavdil. Or how are yotzei Havdalah? Baruch Atah, which you listen, very good. At the same time, he said Ma'orei Ha'esh. So your bracha of Havdalah is like a shtickle cholent. You heard the whole Havdalah with Shemiah, and you happen to plug in Ma'orei Ha'esh because of the previous bracha. So the Chafetz Chaim is saying, with his grace Amuna, Shemei Kohen is not a joke, it's real. Now this is the Chafetz Chaim's psak, and I must tell you, and this is recorded, that the Chafetz Chaim, in his yeshiva, he made the bracha of Habsamim after Havdalah. Because he was afraid, which is a serious problem that he writes about in Chafetz Chaim, in Hilchos Havdalah, that people are busy with the Ma'esh and the Psamim, and they miss a word or two of the bracha of Hamavdil. The only bracha that's Ma'akib is Hamavdil. So a baruch of Hamavdil that you missed, you're not yotzei Havdalah. So Mali that you had Ma'esh and Psamim, you missed the Ikechas Min HaSeifa. Okay, I'm not saying we're going to do that, but at least we have to realize priorities. When the Mavdil's about to start, everything stops. If someone did this, just the Chafetz Chaim writes he's not yotzei. Now I did see Rav Sternbuch and Chelik Aleph Kuf Ayin Vav, and also a beautiful discussion in the Pischei Halacha Amud Nun Aleph, and again in Amud Reish Chaf. They have a very interesting argument, and they say that we paskin Shomeia ka'ona works, but it's not a hefsek. I could listen to Kedusha Milah Ma'ishmar Nes, it's not a hefsek. So why can't I do both? You know, the Pischei Halacha gives a marshal that you could, if you would have two mouths, so you could say two brachas at one time. So here I have two faculties. I have dibur and I have shmiya. So why is it a hefsek? It even throws in a food for thought. Why can't I listen to the Bal Korah lane along with him, and get credit for Shnai Mikra? I lane, then why not? Shemei Kohen works. Why is it a stira? So the truth is, they both say that there's a tzad to argue in the Chafetz Chaim, but they both say you don't argue with the Chafetz Chaim. It shouldn't be done. B'diavad, someone said he certainly heard the word Baruch. No, even though the Chavetz Chaim is not mekel, you want to be msaymach on these poskim. But l'chatchila avada, we do things correctly. The ikka is hamavdil. When hamavdil begins, everything has to stop. But I thought it's nice to hear this insight. It's shaykh that there's a currency called Shomeia and a currency called Oina, but they shouldn't overlap because it might be a hefsek. Now let's talk al pisei the Shulchan Aruch. Question which I guess the answer probably is obvious. We all put on talis and tefillin in the morning. Why don't we have roiva? One person gets up and makes the bracha talis for everybody. So like the Rav, like the minig of those that we don't like to rely on Shemei Koina, it's pashit. Could also be practically. Some people say it's slower the Shem Yichud, and some people don't say the Shem Yichud. So to make it work, we're not mechuyev to. So that's probably why. What I will mention twice a year, to my knowledge, when we have a safek bracha, l'mashal for bachrim, the bracha on the talis koton Shavuos morning, or Tisha B'av, again talis koton, then we rely on Shemei Ka'ona. We listen to someone making a bracha on the talis by mincha, and he's motzei us on Tisha B'av for the talis koton. No, that's a very perfect Shemei Ka'ona. Another time that we're going to have Shemei Ka'ona upcoming is Shavuos morning for those that daven v'sikin. So we know there's a problem with the Birchas Hashachar of Birchas HaTorah, Elakai Neshama, and Hamav Sheina. So the minig is, Mr. Minig in the yeshivas, someone that slept, goes to the Amid and says all the Birchas Hashachar out loud, and the Olam listens from beginning to the end. It's interesting. Not just what we need, all the brachas. Why is that? So the Mishnah in the end of Siman Vav quotes a Levush, and it can be Bialacha Nun Tes Dalet, he says this is very much La'alacha L'maisa, that to be yotzei Shemei Ka'ona, you don't need a minyan. But we'll soon see to be yotzei Shmein Esser by Chazaras HaShatz, you need a minyan. Levush assumes that Birchas HaShachar is part of davening, and to affect Shemei Ka'ona, you have to have a minyan. So Birchas HaShachar, you need a minyan. So that's why the minig is one person that slept says all the Birchas HaShachar, and everybody listens. Now someone asked me, I'm sure this morning I'm tired, I have to be honest, and I can't listen to so many brachas. Why can't I just listen to Birchas HaTorah and Kai Neshama and Rav Sheina? That I have to listen, I can't say it. But why can't I say the other brachas myself? And something is right. The only problem is those three. Just it's a way of doing it, more systematically. But those three need Shemei Ka'ona to avoid safek, and they need to be with the minyan. Question. Again, I had 3 different people that had this problem. They could not talk for a few weeks. What do you do about Krishma? Krishma, here it doesn't work. I mean, the Shulchan Aruch says if you can't talk, so there's a little schar for here, but it doesn't work. So we would say, what's your problem? Why can't Shemei Ka'ona work? So here we come to a fundamental Yushalmi. Yushalmi is in Brachas, Perek Gimel, Halacha Gimel. All the mitzvahs, even though I was yotzei already, I can make just for you. L'mashal, someone can't make kiddush, and I make kiddush already. I can make kiddush just for him. That's called yotzei motzei. Zok Yushalmi, but Birchas HaMazayin, it doesn't work. Why? Dichsiv, V'yachalta v'savata uverachta misha'achal hu yivarech. In other words, if I want to bench just for this person that can't talk, it doesn't work. Why not? Because the pasuk v'chalta v'savata v'rachta, and you didn't eat. I didn't eat. If I didn't eat, how could I bench for him? Okay, we'll get to that soon. Then he goes, loy mistaver b'krishma. Also, it's not logical by krishma. Shemei Ka'ona works. She called echad v'echad mishanan b'fiv. Krishma, everybody has to say it. To put it bluntly, it's not a mitzvah of shmias Krishma, it's a mitzvah of saying Krishma. Kriya Shema. Then he adds the same lashon, like mistaver b'tfilah. By Shmenes also, Shemei Ka'ona doesn't work. She called echad v'echad mevakesh rachmim al atzmai. So in one sweep, the Yishalmi negated 3 mitzvahs that don't work Shemei Ka'ona. Benching, l'chayra, Krishma and Shemei Esser. Zokta Vudraham in the new printed Chelik Aleph Amid Tzadik. Why? Why, if it works for everything else, why not Krishma? Because the pasuk says v'dibarta bam. Now here we have to add a nekuda. Even though Shomeia Ka'ona works the chatchila, and you get his package 100% with all the pitchivkis, with the kol ram and everything, but did you say Krishma Rabbi Yid? No, you didn't say it. You were resting. That you have to. In other words, as the Ritva, it's a beautiful Ritva. In beginning of Megillah, he points out. It says in the Megillah Nikreis, Megillah is laned because you don't have to say Megillah. You have to hear it. But what's the lashon of the Mishnah? Kairin as Shema. There's a mitzvah of kriya. Shomeia Ka'ona works as if you said it, but you didn't say it. You know, I give a mashal. If you walk into shul and today's your day, there's no koyin, I give you bimkaim koyin. Okay, wonderful, you got a first aliyah. But don't go duchen because you're bimkaim koyin. You know, Shomeia Ka'ona is with a chaf adimyan. You're not oina. It's good enough for every mitzvah, but if the mitzvah is kriya, I didn't lane. And this is why the word vidibartaba. Now, other Rishonim seem to say that the limud is from the word vishinantam levanecha. Shinun is a physical act that you didn't do. Others say it's because Krishma is Kabbalah's oil malchus. You can't just ditto someone else. But at the end of the day, it seems definitely that all agree lechatchila we don't use Shomeia Ka'ona for Krishma. The question is b'di'evet. Is it so bad even b'di'evet doesn't work? Zokt Ram al Shaker and the Goyin in Shtayis Elio in Brachas Perik Aleph, even b'di'evet it doesn't work. If the mitzvah is kriya and you didn't lane, so how could it work? Now, Baruch Hashem for us, I should say, the Mishnah Magen Avraham, Mishnah the end of Samach Aleph, are mekel b'di'evet if there's no other choice. Apparently, it's a hiddur, it's a chatchila, but the Mishnah is mekel, the like the Vilna Goyin, that b'di'evet, if there's no choice, Krishma can be, you be yotzei Krishma with Shomeia Ka'ona. No, the person that can't talk, he has no other choice. No doubt about it, better Shomeia Ka'ona than here. Next question is Shemay Nesra. This person, these people couldn't daven for a few weeks, 3 times a day. What do you do? So the Yishalmi's lashon is Yekol Echad Mevakesh Rachem Alatzmai, which is very important to understand. Shemay Nesra, I'm fighting for my life. I need tefillah. Ma'avazeh Hodam. My day is my davening. No. So how could I just combine with your davening? You have your needs, I have my needs. Plus another problem. Shemay Nesra has to be balachash. Look at the Zoya, how important it is to keep that lachash. So how could you tell someone, please daven loud, be motzei me? You know, how's he going to daven loud for me? He's doing something wrong. So we have 2 good reasons why we don't use Shomeia Ka'ona for Shemay Nesra. What would be the obvious nafkamina? Let's say he wants to listen to Chazar Sashatz. That was niskan to say b'kol ram. So there's no problem of lachash. But there's still a problem, kol echad v'echad mevakish rachma alatzmai. So Reis Apella. In Kuf Chav Dalet Aleph, the Shulchan Aruch discusses this, and he says the Shliach Tzibur says Chazar Sashatz to be motzei the einay baki, the einay yodei l'spalo. Zok Mishnah, but the baki is not yotzei even b'di'evet. Why? You have to daven. So it seems that if you're not a daven, you can't be yotzei Shomeia Ka'ona even by the Shemay Nesra. Tov Kuf Tzadik Dalet Hilchos Rosh Hashanah. He again revisits its question, and the Mechaber Kishitasa holds it doesn't work. Shemay Nesra does not work Shomeia Ka'ona unless there's an baki like the original Takana. The Ramah says if he can't daven, then you could be motzei, you could be yotzei with Shomeia Ka'ona. So here, presumably, is a reason to be mekel. If someone has no choice, he can't daven, l'mashal this person physically can't speak, then he could rely on Shomeia Ka'ona of the Chazar Sashatz. Now, of course, this is far from ideal, simply put, for 2 reasons. First of all, to be yotzei Shomeia Ka'ona, even if it works, you have to be Shomeia. That's a pretty challenging job. Listen from the beginning to the end. Shemay Nesra is 19 brachas. Another problem, which is not biyotcha, is sometimes the Shliach Tzibur somehow flies. There's a certain a certain knack. You could say the first bracha, the whole bracha b'neshima achas with a chazanis. You know, some people say it, you can't follow. So Zakta Mishnah and Sif Koton Mem, these are two problems being yotzei, Shomeia, ka'ona, Shemay Nesra. First of all, it's hard to listen the entire time, you drift off. But even if you do listen, you have to make sure the shliach tzibur is saying it at a pace that you could keep up with. And that's why he quotes Achronim, better don't rely on Chazar Sashatz. Now what he's talking about is someone that missed Yalav Yavai. Forgot Yalav Yavai, Shachar, Rish Chodesh. Has to daven over. So the Allah Machabas, he could be yotzei with the Chazar Sashatz. God, if Mishnah has a big kasha, what do you mean Chazar Sashatz? You could say daven yourself, you're a bucky. He says, since he tried once, he's allowed to be yotzei Chazar Sashatz. But Zok Mishnah, I don't advise it. Not me, quotes the Bach. For two reasons. You're going to drift off and the shliach tzibur is flying. Oh, but our question, where he has no choice, he can't talk. Or someone, which I have this sometimes, a person has a safek if he said a certain part of davening. And we know it's never. You say, no, you're not motzei daven. No. But I'm worried. I said, you want? You can listen to Chazar Sashatz. But this person that can't talk, he has mamash no choice. So for him, we say, the eitz is, listen to Chazar Sashatz. That is l'chatchila for this situation. Again, he has to follow the rules. Mishnah spells it out. He has to make 3 steps backwards before they start. He makes the kriyas when the shatz is doing it. He doesn't say Baruch Hu Shema, he does say Amen. By Moedim, he listens to the regular Moed, not Moedim Rabbanan, and he makes 3 steps backwards. So listening is a job, but there's no choice. Oh. So here's a beautiful story. One of these 3 people told me that he does this every day. So I asked him, what do you do about Ma'ariv? He says, no problem. He goes to the local shtibel, they daven mincha 55 minutes after shkia. For him, it's Vadei Laila for Ma'ariv. So I couldn't be, put in my place like that. I says, but did you go over to the Baal Tefillah and tell him that you want to be yotzei with his Shemay Nesra? He doesn't know about your interesting plan of mincha, Ma'ariv combination. He says, oh, I didn't do that. Is it a problem? I says, what do you mean? It's a Pharisee Gemara. Gemara Rosh Hashanah Chav Chesed Beis, Reb Zera told his Gabbai, blow shofar and have a mind to be motzei me. Zok Rashi, and that's what the Chaba says is the end of Reishut Gimel. To be yotzei, it's not enough to be a Shomeia. There are 2 parts of this joint partnership, and you have to have a kavanas mashmi'a. You have to have the mevorech, have a mind to motzei you, and you have to listen. And without kavanas mashmi'a, not yotzei, even b'di'evid. So he got nervous. I said, but don't worry, because you made it to the other half of the Gemara. Because the Gemara says, same Gemara, Rosh Hashanah has a kasha. The Mishnah says if you're walking by a Beis HaKnesses and you hear someone blowing shofar or davening, you could be yotzei Shomeia ka'ona. He doesn't know that you're there. Zog the Gemara, if the shatz is doing it, shatz is all inclusive. To whom may concern. So you are okay. Because the shatz doesn't have to know about you. Now Rav Moshe does add a Chelik Gimel Siman Daled. The shatz never learned Masechta Rosh Hashanah. How does he know that he's supposed to be motzei someone else? So I think what he means to say is, his job is to say for the tzibur, it's automatic. Now, I don't know exactly what that means. Some chazanim never heard of this. They think the main thing is singing and, entertaining. But Rav Moshe says it's automatic. Az nidbur chelik ches mem aleph, Tshuvas Hanagis Gimel Amdal, all say a shatz is yotzei, is motzei automatically. I just had such a shayla. Someone came to a shul for a kiddush. He lived on the other end of town. He walked in just as the Rav started saying kiddush, and he heard the whole kiddush. But he got nervous. How can I be yotzei Shomeia ka'ona? The Rav doesn't know I exist. He doesn't know my name. I don't even daven here. He says, don't worry. The Rav that's making for a tzibur is like the shliach tzibur. Shliach tzibur is all inclusive. So lamaisa should never be negeya, but if someone has this problem, he can listen to shachris, mincha, ma'ariv, listen closely, and can be yotzei. Now, what I would like to mention, another important part of Shomeia ka'ona is when a person's davening Shemay Nesra, so we pass in the end of Siman Kuv Dalid that he can't say Kedusha because it's a hefsek. What does he do? We pass like Rashi that he Shomeia ka'ona, listen to the shat saying Kedusha. The problem is that sometimes the shat does not say the Kedusha out loud. They just end off with Dibbe Kachach Kasav Lema, Lumasam, B'Shapim V'Aimim, Baruch Hamir, whatever your nusach is. And you don't hear Kaddish and Baruch. The Ik is Kaddish and Baruch. So the Shatz has to know that's his job. It's a shtickle avon, the Shatz's part. Say Kaddish and Baruch out loud. But Lamaisa, what should the Yachid do? So the question is, what's the problem? Let me listen to the fellow next to me. He's saying Kaddish. I'm right now, I can hear his every word Kaddish and Baruch. So Rav Moshe in the same tshuva, but there's a problem. Where's the kavanas mashmiya? If he doesn't know you're being motzei him, you can't be motzei you. A shatz, that's exactly the chiluk. Shatz, yeah, not a yachid. So if it's negeya and you daven in a shul consistently, make up with the fellow next to you. I'm giving you a lifetime contract. Whenever you say kedusha or yeheshmei rabbah, have me in mind. Doesn't have to be conscious, but hopefully subconscious is enough. This is l'chayra a perfect eitzah, but you have to realize that you have to make up with someone. If someone leaves, get someone else. Now someone came to with an interesting taina, and he said, let's assume, which is not pashut, but let's assume kedusha is only the rabbanon. Really, the Mishnah brings the Riyah Kaddish that is to the right. Let's assume it's the rabbanon. By a mitzvah the rabbanon, we pass in mitzvah and tzrichas kavana. So what's wrong if we don't have kavanas mashmiya? Can it be worse than if no kavana at all? So I told him there's two mistakes you made. First of all, we pass in mikra din in by derbanim mit tzrichas kavana. But even by derbanim. But more so, you're confusing kavanas. Kavana to be yotzei, some say by derbanim is not ma'akiv. But kavanas mashmiya is what makes the Shomeia kind of work. Without it, you have two individuals. Without kavanas mashmiya, there's no Shomeia ka'ona. So it's nothing to do with mitzichas kavana. And that's the chayr pasha. Question to think about. Another function of Shomeia ka'ona is when we're saying Krishma, and at the end we're missing of the 248 words, we only have 245 words, we hear the shots, Hashem Elokeichem emes. What can I do if I'm in the back and I didn't hear the shot saying Hashem Elokeichem emes? Can I listen to my friend next to me say it? So the chayr, it's the same problem. You know, there's no kavanas mashmiya. To tell him during Krishma is never going to work. You're going to start motioning and he's not going to know what you're talking about. So Tama told me a svara, you don't have to be yotzei Hashem Elokeichem emes. What you're doing, you have to have three more words. So without kavanas mashmiya, it's good enough. So he's assuming he's listening, which is not true. You don't have to be yotzei, but you have to hear it. I told him, one of the problems we had with davening Ma'ariv on a microphone, mostly by the big Siyam HaShas. So Chadosh Shat has a little bit of an issue, but Ma'ariv has no problem, except Hashem Elokeichem emes. If you don't hear from me P of the Shats, so you don't have the word Hashem Elokeichem emes. So people that know what they're doing, either they will say Keil Melech Neman, or some have the minute they repeat Hashem Elokeichem emes on their own. But there, if you don't hear the coil of the shliach tzibur, you're missing Hashem Elokeichem emes. So these two questions are probably similar, unless someone will find a makar that you don't have to be yotzei, you have to just hear it. But if there's no kavanas mashmiya l'chayr, there's something missing. Question: an interesting Yom Tov shaila, which is extremely negeya. I say Yom Tov in Eretz Yisrael is a daily shaila. Let's say I'm in the middle of davening, Shemay Esra, and they start duchening. So here it's an novelty Yom Tov, but in Eretz Yisrael is every day. So the question is, what do I do? Should I stop my Shemay Esra to hear duchening, or go weiter? So the chayra, this is the machlokes Rishonim. The famous Taisus in Sukkah and in Brachos Chafalf Mabeis, Rashi says, if you want to hear Kedusha, listen, Shomeia Ka'ona, and you're wonderful. Frek Taisus, but if Shomeia Ka'ona works, it's a hefsek. So don't listen to Kedusha. Okay, but we paskin, the end of Kuv Dalet, like Rashi, listen, and we'll soon see why there's no hefsek. But the question is, why is the same true regarding duchening? It's machlokes Rishonim if you listen? So probably not, and I'll tell you why. By Kedusha, to be yotzei, you need Shomeia Ka'ona. Shomeia Ka'ona is such a real currency that it could be a hefsek, according to Reinu Tam. But duchening, there's no din of Shomeia Ka'ona. You're not a kohen. You have to listen. Even like the Chrei, the mitzvah on the Yisrael to listen, but there's no din of Shomeia Ka'ona. And that's why there's no problem of Shomeia Ka'ona as a hefsek l'chol hadayis. The only issue is in Milah Shemoneh Esrei. Now you listen, why are you doing another mitzvah in Milah Shemoneh Esrei? But Rav Moshe, Ingus Moshe, Shevet Halevi, Oz Nidbro, Yebi Oima all say that this is not a different mitzvah in Milah Shemoneh Esrei. Duchening, as we know from the Rambam, is part of Shemoneh Esrei. Without Shemoneh Esrei, there's no duchening. The Gemara said the Kadosh Baruch Hu Mis'ava should be duchening. And who's really giving us the bracha? Not the Kohen, but the Olam. So it's not a stira to Shemoneh Esrei, it's part of Shemoneh Esrei. Next question, someone has a l'chaim in shul, okay? And there's 5 people making mezainis. Should one make a mezainis, b'roivam, and motzei the other 4? So loimi boy, like those that we try to shy away from Shomeia ka'ona because we don't concentrate. But here there's a more fundamental problem. And that, to quote the Gemara in Brachas of Membeis, that to make Shomeia ka'ona there has to be some kviyus. Mark speaks about it, calls it there's a certain type of togetherness, Hesebu Yachad, but you need more than just Shomeia ka'ona. There has to be you have to be some type of a connection. And bracha rishoina, just a shackle, just a mezainis, is not enough of a kviyas. So this is the big sugi in Reish Yud Gimel. But at the end of the day, for birchas hanenin, bracha rishoina, we don't use Shomeia ka'ona unless it's part of kiddush or havdalah or motzei. Then it has the status of a birchas mitzvah. When do we use Shomeia ka'ona for birchas hanenin? When I have a safek and I made a shackle, so the law is I'm not a drink without shackle, but I don't want to drink without a shackle. So I ask you, make a shackle, and have me in mind, I'm yotzei. But here, believe it or not, there's a ha'or in the floor. Memanashach. If you are uncomfortable to say it, a bracha, because you're not sure if you're mechuyev, so what are you doing? Shomeia ka'ona, which is lachatchila. So why shouldn't it be that if I didn't need the shackle, so Shomeia ka'ona is a bracha b'atola? Frek tzlach the noid yud in daf chaf aleph in brachas. If it works 100%, so why doesn't it backfire? Why isn't it sour? But it doesn't. Why not? So the teretz is very pashut. The issa of bracha b'atola is leisisa shem Hashem Hashav. The issa is verbalizing the Rebbeinu Shalom's heilig genomen. You didn't do that by Shomeia ka'ona. It's like we saw by Krishma, it's not v'dibarta. Even though you get his Krishma or his bracha with the full package, but you didn't say the Shem Hashem Levatala. And therefore, there's no problem of bracha Levatala. Zokta B'kiva Ega, in the end of Siman Kuv Dalet in Archaim, he quotes the Slach, he says, if you want to be really safe, you could listen b'tanai. If I need the bracha, I want the full Shomeia ka'ona. If not, it's dvarim ba'alma. Could be it's understood, but that's the beauty of a safek bracha, why it works, and there's no problem of bracha levatala. Question: for those that have the minig that one makes their own, only the father makes kiddush. So somebody asked Rav Vozner Chelik Zayin Lamed Gimel if each should make their own hagafen at least. So he said, well, Shomeia ka'ona works l'chatchila. If you hear the bracha, why not yotzei the gafen also? But if you're afraid you might not listen, then you should make your own hagafen. And he says the late in Chelik Ches Reish Pei Aleph, he says in my sviva, because people don't concentrate too much, we try to make our own brachas on Shabbos and Yom Tiv. I guess he's talking about kiddush, even though you're losing roivam, but you're not being yotzei otherwise. So it's really the same question. Ideally, roivam and mitzvah boy is one person making kiddush. If you're not going to listen properly, then you can make your own. Can someone be yotzei Shomeia ka'ona birchas hamazon? Let's talk about the person who can't talk. So the emes is, this is pretty promising, because this is part of a suda. Unlike a regular birchas hanenin, here there's a real kviyas. So someone told me, but there's a problem. It's a pasuk in the Torah. I said, which pasuk? V'yachalta v'savatu v'rachta. And if you ate, you have to bench. You can't be yotzei Shomeia ka'ona. I said, you're making a big mistake. Because the whole zimun originally was, the real zimun, one bench from beginning to the end, everybody listened. So he must have been referring to the Yerushalmi, but he didn't learn it right. The Yishalmi says, even though I can make kiddush just for you, als arvus, but I can't bench just for you. In other words, let's say a person can't bench. Shimon can't bench. Reuven, I could bench just for him. Why not? Arvus. But that's the Gzeres HaKasa v'yachalta v'savata uverachta. If you didn't eat, you can't bench. But the same Yishalmi is aware that the regular Shomeia Kohen, if I'm benching anyhow, so why can I include Shimon? And that's why the Yishalmi is not a raya that Shomeia doesn't work. Why, Taka, don't we use Shomeia Kohen by benching? So one answer is simple, because it's hard to listen to the entire benching. Let's go back a step. If Zimun is one benches for all, and no one benches but listens, why did we change Zimun? So I didn't change Zimun, the Shulchan Aruch did. In Kuf Tzadik Gimel, Kuf Pei Gimel, Siv Zayin, the Shulchan Aruch says that today Zimun is just the Bircha Zimun, because we can't concentrate. So Lamaisa, that's one good reason that we don't have Shomeia Kohen by benching. Another reason the Paiskim say, Mr. Brewer quotes it, this Kuf Tzadik Gimel, is because benching is the Raisa. The only bracha is the Raisa. And you might drift off. It's the old story about drifting off. And you got to be more careful by the Raisa. So that's why Lamaisa in Yisoid, benching, Shomeia Kohen works by benching. If the Mavarach is Chayiv, he can include you. But we have all these reasons that it might not work properly, so bench on your own.
So why do
Oy bazoi, yeah.
you say the first bracha out loud?
No, you don't say out loud, but people daven with, they say with him. It's just to have more of a Zimun feeling. You're right. No one relies on the first bracha of Shomeia Kohen. Now, Lamaisa, that's all. Ideally, you bench on your own, and that's the minig. If someone can't talk, Rahman al-Tzani can't talk, what should he do? So Avada and Avada, Shomeia Kohen is much, much better than here. So that's the only alternative. Now, he asked me, okay, if he's eating Bashal Sudas, he can yotzei with someone. What does he do at home? It's just him and his wife. So Avada, the Shulchan Aruch Kuf Pei Vav has a safek if Nashim Achayev in benching either ice or not, because it's bris and Torah, and we treat benching for Nashim like only a Chiyav D'Rabbanan. So they shouldn't be motzei a man ideally. But if the woman ate Kedei Svia, so he's Chayev a full D'Rabbanan, and he only ate he only ate a small amount, so they're both D'Rabbanan, and then a woman could be motzei a man. Tave Me'ira, the person that his wife is motzei him, but he has no other choice. Same thing with a koton. A koton is a D'Rabbanan, and if they're both on the same page, they're both D'Rabbanans, b'shas adchak, that would be an eight. I once spoke someplace by a Leil Shishi, Shir, whatever. So afterwards they had a Tayameha, which I think maybe they had to bench on that Tayameha, but anyhow, it was the Leil Shishi Tayameha, and then someone got up after they finished eating, I'm going to make an al-michya and be motzei all of you with al-michya. It didn't sit right with me for two reasons. First of all, by bracha achroina, we don't rely on Shomeia Kohen. Why? It's a deraisa, and some say al-michya is deraisa. But more so, I forgot to mention earlier, regarding benching, the Mishnah Berurah points out, quoting Rishonim, that even though you ate together, but when you're benching, you're parting. So you're losing the kviyas. Maybe by benching there's no kviyas, and therefore Shomeia Kohen doesn't work. So again, we don't use Shomeia Kohen unless there's no choice. But here, why can't everyone make their own al-michya? But the emphasis is, whoever did that had a cheshbon. The Taz in the beginning of Reish Yud Gimel, he says, people don't make an al-michya, they don't know it by heart maybe, they think they didn't eat enough, whatever it is. But the Taz writes in his time, we have to do anything possible to make it available, and one person should make an al-michya out loud and be motzei the oilam. The Mishnah Berurah and Siv Koton Test quotes the same from the El Yerabba and the Rav, and he adds befrat bracha achroina, that people don't know Baal Peh, and maybe it's the Raisa, that should be done. So Lamaisa, whoever instituted this minig, he based it on the Taz. But you have to realize it wasn't applied properly. because nobody holds it's lachatchila to make an alamichya b'roivam. That's wrong. Bracha achroina, we do each by their own. This is what we call in English damage control. If you make an alamichya, you're not doing chatchila. If you don't make an alamichya, there's a percentage of people that will walk out without an alamichya. Either they don't know bahat, or they think they had a safek. So it's a question of cutting our losses. Now, Lamaisa, the Taz, in his times, I guess it was such a big problem, he had to respond. But what should be done, whether it's a Leil Shishi, a Shalom Zacha, a Kiddush, either you could announce, I'm making an alamichya for those that have a safek if they should make it, which is a nice way of saying, and for those that might walk out without making it. If you want to say that, that's a little sharp. But say it, I'm available to anybody who wants to use it. But better to make your own. That's the right way to do it. So therefore, everybody has an option. Or you could say, I'm going to say it out loud slowly. Either you could say along with me, which is better, and the Taz recommends that. So you yotzei with your own tzibur, or yotzei with me if you listen properly. But it's not a lechatchila, and of course, if we have a olam of b'nei Torah by a Shabbos kiddush, people are responsible. Each make their own alamichya. I should mention, if you do have one saying it and all say it along, besides that everybody says every word, you also have roiv hadras melech. The Gemara says in Brachos and Nandal Rabbi is an interesting story. Rabbi Yehuda got sick, and they came to visit him, and he was healed, and they made a goimel, and he was yotzei with that, because he said Amen. Zok the Machab and Reish Yotes Siv Dalid. If you want to be yotzei goimel with someone else, you could, but you have to say Amen. So the kasha is, I thought Shomeia ka'ona, you don't need Amen. So you goimel yotzei by hearing someone else good, but why do you have to say Amen? Amen's not likuva. So Kiveiga on the page, in the second teretz, he says that if someone else is making a shackle anyhow, I could be yotzei with him even if I don't say Amen. But they said the goimel just for him. When someone makes a bracha just for you, you better say Amen. If not, you're not yotzei Shomeia ka'ona. Now others question, what's the logic? If Shomeia ka'ona works, why do you have to say Amen? Why is it different than any other case? But the Mincha Shleima in Chelik Aleph Siman Gimel says, if Kiveiga zok this, you to follow it. But at the end of the day, this is important to mention, because sometimes the yotzeiKedusha, the Mashal, whose minig is not to drink from the wine that it makes a guffin on, he gives it to the Chassan Kala to drink, and he's motzei them with his bracha. That's a yotzei situation, and he should tell them, don't make your own bracha, be yotzei with me, and say Amen. Because if not, according to Kiveiga, if none of them say Amen, he doesn't have a bracha. Moving on to a difficult Hilchos Shabbos question. Someone asked me, he just got married, and his shver says the kiddush quickly and swallows the words. He doesn't know what to do, because he can't make his own kiddush, that's for sure. But he's afraid he's not yotzei. That's what you call a shver shayla, right? What should he do? So the emes is, he asked me, could he say along quietly, of course it won't be noticeable, with the shver saying the kiddush. So here we have a Magen Avraham I alluded to earlier. In Kuf Tzad the Gimel Sif Cotton Bays, the Magen Avraham says women that are not so focused, what should they do? And all his real problem is they don't understand the Lashon Kodesh, they're not yotzei Shomeia ka'ona. Let them say along with the Mekadesh. Now right away all the Achronim ask, what's going on here? Mamanashach. If they're yotzei with listening, so they can make a bracha, bracha v'atola. Teretz says they're not yotzei with listening, they're yotzei with saying. Very nice. Where's your kais? How do you yotzei without a kais? Kiddush without a kais, you're not yotzei. So the pshat is b'di'evet, because no other choice. We're going to say the following, not me, the Achronim say this, that since they're saying kiddush and there's a kais in front of them, it's enough of a shaykhis that the kiddush is ala kais. Halicha Shloima Perik Chaveza Arat Tezayin says this regarding our shayla. When someone's missed the Mekadesh is missing words, say along quietly and be yotzei ala kais with your own kiddush. The Rav Paul Chelik Beis Mem Aleph has a shayla of Shulchan Aviv, the father swallowing the words, keep it up at stake. Same eitzah. Bi'alacha Reish Ayin Aleph Si Beis quotes him Kiveiga says the same thing. that there is an option of saying and being yotzei with yourself. You're not going to have both. You can't have two kiddush. One's a levatala. You're going to be yotzei yourself with the kiddush ala kois. If someone, lamashal, has a hearing aid, and he can't hear without the hearing aid, and he wants to be yotzei chatchila but doesn't have a kois, what he should do is say along with the mekadesh. This way he has his own kiddush ala kois. Question. The mekadesh made kiddush, drank the wine, and one of the children, one of the listeners, spoke out before he, the child, drank. So we have a perfect kiddush, and one of the shayim spoke out before they drank. What would you say? So the kiddush devad the yotzei, but the chayda lost the guffin, right? What's the shayla? Before it's chal. Zok the Ramah in Kuf Samach Zayin Sif Vav, this very shayla, no problem with the guffin. Why? I didn't drink. Zok the Achashoch and Sif Koton Tezayin, unbelievable Einfall. Vivait the Mekadesh drank, so his drinking, actually talking about Hamoitzi, but the same thing. His Hamoitzi, his drinking, is chal for the Shomeia. And once the bracha is fully chal, even for the Shomeia. Zok the Mishmira, a very real lashon, Kamat kol achronim argue on this Ramah. How does that work? You know, it works Shomeia Kohen, but not his drinking is for me. I didn't drink yet. And therefore, he says that you have to be very careful not to talk out, because if you spoke out before you ate the motzei or drank the wine, you're not yotzei. Frek the kafachayim, sif koton and ches. What about safek brachas lahakol? Isn't that a factor? He says no, because the Shomeia didn't make a bracha yet. Right now, he just ruined a listening bracha. No, then you can make your own bracha. But you're right. The kiddush he was yotzei, but to drink he has to have a new guffin. What I found amazing, obviously the Taz had this problem in his times, where children spoke out, so the father should be making tanai. I'm being motzei anybody who didn't talk out. If you spoke out, I'm not being motzei you. Then you have a vadei chiyav bracha rishayim. Fakert, let's say the mavarech, the mekadesh, spoke out, but the listeners didn't. So mitzad echad, I didn't talk. Mitzad sheni, the original bracha is possible. So here the Mishnah says, sarchin ladina. Because maybe I became an independent listener. So who cares what he spoke out? And I found a list of poskim that say that don't repeat the bracha. Because you as a Shomeia, you have your own bracha now. So either the Mekadesh ruined it, that's his problem, not your problem. That's Lamaisa. The Bialacha adds a beautiful yisoid. If even one of the Shoimim drank before the Mekadesh spoke, shouldn't happen, but he drank before the Mekadesh spoke, then all are yotzei l'chol. Because then the bracha was chal for all the Shoimim. Let me leave you a few quick ha'aris. Leil Seder, l'chayra, Shomeia kind of works. And that was the minig hagra in Kuf Tzadik Alf Ma'aser Rav. In fact, the poskim say the Rav has a long shtickle to justify the minig that k'mat you don't see today. The Rav is in Tafai and Gimel, uses Tifyud Gimel, that one says, and motzei the oilam. In fact, the lashon v'higada to levincha sounds like the father's talking and they're listening. Or kalamas hamarba l'sape b'yitzias Mitzrayim, there's a leader and a followers. So if you ever hear about that, it's a minute that goes back to actually until the time of the Agoda. Today most don't do it, but it's such a minig. Svira, we don't use Shomeia ka'ona. I'm not talking about the bracha, I'm talking about the svira. Why? It's like Mishnah in the beginning of Tav Peites, usfartem lachem, a svira l'chol echad. I'm listening very well, good. But there's no dibur of svira. It's like Krishma and Shem Hashem l'batola. If someone missed the bracha, one day he didn't count svira, so from now on he listens to the shots, that's fine. He's only listening to the bracha. Does he have to tell the shots be motzei me? He's embarrassed to tell the shots that he has to be motzei him. We saw Rav Moshe, he doesn't have to. Rav David finds the bracha, asks Rav Moshe in Chelik Aleph Kuf Ayin Gimel, since it's a machlokes, if you're allowed to say Kedusha during Shemoneh Esrei, so it's not ideal. Why do Nusach Svard blow shofar in Milah Shemoneh Esrei Rosh Hashanah? At best, it's a machlokes, Rashi and Tosfos, it's a safek hefsek. So why not Rosh Hashanah be better than that and avoid hefsekim? What's the beautiful terrace, Dr. Moshe? By shofar, you don't need Shomeia ka'ona. It didn't Shmiya. The only problem of Shomeia ka'ona hefsek if you need ka'ona. So there's no problem Shomeia ka'ona by shayfa. Last but not least, unbelievable ha'ara l'maisa. The Gemara says in Yevamos Daf Kuv Dalid that if Leilenu a chaylet that has to do chalitza is an ilam, he can't talk, so he can't do chalitza because an integral part of the mitzvah is the kriyas haparsha. So someone asked in the Har Tzvi and Simon and Zayin, someone asked the Har Tzvi, what's the problem? Let someone say it, Shomeia ka'ona. But there's a bigger kasha because the Mishnah in Sanhedrin Ayin Aleph about a parent of a ben Meir who's an ilam. There's no ben Meir. I Shomeia ka'ona. So some say the one that's saying it is not a bar chiyuva. But he says a more beautiful teretz. Because it's not just a din of a dibur. You have the chayles has to say, and bezdin, and the yavama have to hear it, as I state in the pasuk. That they don't hear the chaylitz's voice. You can't create as the chaylitz's voice. So since you have to hear from the chaylitz, it's like a lack of dibur, and it doesn't work. I couldn't talk to you all.
Shame Egan Shir, like a big Ashkar of Smith for today's share. To have the great close to sponsoring a share. Call Egan Shir Terra 718-851-8651. Email ist@yeshivanet.com. Kananya Vanakasha Marasagash Bogle Zakes as the shell figure Hibulum Ter Mitzvah Shanema Alanoi Chofes Aman Sitka Yagdul Ter Viade. Rabbi say, if you didn't hear the shir, you probably weren't yotzei, but there's a tikkun, you can listen to the sikkim on Shomeia ka'ona.
Shomeia ka'ona, as we saw, is very real. Either the simple level, the shmiya goes over, you yotzei with the shmiya, or, as we said, it's achdus, Shomeia, and mashmiya, and the whole package with all the details are transferable, but it has to be done right. And basically, as we said, just saying amen, if you didn't hear every word, it doesn't help. It has to be yotzei with the shmiya. As we said, there are two minhagim regarding kiddush. If each make their own, it's really totally. If it's lechatchila, Shomeia ka'ona is lechatchila. It's a ma'ila roiv if one makes kiddush for all. But the problem is we don't listen. Our attention span has shrunk in recent years. So those that make their own kiddush, they rather have a kiddush at yotzei than have the roiv hadras melech. If a person missed the word, he could supplement it, add it quickly, just don't miss the next word, make sure you do it right. A person that can't do any mitzvah, of course, can use Shomeia ka'ona, but basically, for those that feel that they don't concentrate, they should not rely on Shomeia ka'ona. If someone is saying, the words, Ma'ori Yo'esh of Avdallah, and the Mavla said, Baruch Atah, so the Chavetz Chaim is concerned about a hefsek, one of them are ruined. Bechas HaShachar, to be yotzei, when you have to be yotzei Shavuos morning, the three brachas, the problematic brachas, you need a minyan, and that's why the tzibur goes up and makes the brachas to be motzei people. The rest of the brachas are not necessarily b'minyan. The Krishma, unless there's no choice, should not use Shomeia ka'ona, the din of v'shinantam or v'dibarta. Shmei Nesra, unless there's an einei baki or can't talk, you should not use even Shmei Nesra b'kol ram because of the problems. You have to follow all the rules. If you do, follow all Hilchos Shmei Nesra rules. If the shots are speeding, then find a different eitzah or different shots. The Shmei Nesra of Ma'ariv, the Shmei Nesra that you need for Ma'ariv, you could be yotzei by listening to Mincha because it's the same Shmei Nesra. We need Kavanas Mashmiya, and he has to know that he's being motzei you. But the shots is an automatic kavanas mashmiya. We had a tzarachin of Hashem Elokeichem emes works without kavanas mashmiya. Maybe it's just a din in dibur, whatever that means. Nesiyas kapayim, you could pause during Shemona Esrei to hear Nesiyas kapayim. Birchas hanenin, we don't use Shomeia ka'ona unless there's a safek. There's no chashash bracha batala if you're listening safek, because there's no verbalizing Shem Hashem, but it's kedai to make a tanai or it's understood. There are different minhagim regarding the geffen of kiddush if each make their own. It's the same shaila. We don't use Shomeia ka'ona by birchas hamazon unless there's no choice, because it's still better than here. We don't use a Shomeia ka'ona for al-mikhi unless a situation that people will leave without a proper bracha. The best would be to announce, I'm making it to whom may concern, but better would be each make their own. B'shas adchak, when a person cannot be yotzei with the makadesh because he's either he's skipping words or a person's not well, whatever it is, you could rely on saying it word for word, and the kais lefanecha is like biyodecha. If the makadesh drank but the Shomeia was mafsik, the Shomeia has to repeat the bracha. If the makadesh spoke out but the Shomeia didn't talk, then the Shomeia does not need a new bracha. Of course the makadesh does. By Leil say the Shomeia ka'ona does work. By Sfira it should not be used except for the bracha. Tkiyas shayfa, there's no Shomeia ka'ona, it's just a din of Shomeia without ka'ona. And as we said, by chalitza and bentching it's a din of dibur, the physical dibur, and nothing could work for that.